It's Maximum News, and I'm COVID-free, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo! Or Mario. Woohoo! No, my voice isn't there yet. Welcome back, guys. Not a whole lot of big news this week. Well, there's news, but not the usual density that we're used to. But we're gonna get into it. Got Syb as always joining me, providing his lovely insight. I'm actually gonna have to defer to him on a lot of these topics because, obviously the big news is that the Super Mario Brothers movie came out this past week. Did not get to see it, for reasons I'll get into when we discuss a future topic in the show. But I'm going to defer to him just to get his thoughts on the movie real quick, and then we'll get into just like how huge this movie has been. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Syb, thoughts?
It's really good. It's not something that is a groundbreaking, legendary, iconic film that people will be talking about for years and decades to come. The dogs agree. It's just a really good kids film, right? Like, there are people who really wanted a deep dive into Mario lore. They wanted answers to a whole bunch of things. It didn't provide any of those things, but what it did provide was a very fun, family-friendly time, and a movie that's really great for kids, and a movie that will literally make you want to go home and play Mario.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an epic. It's not meant to be, Epics are in the sense of like kids, epic kid movies. They're kind of accidental, and they don't always it's not always like something that you can repeat, right? Like you can take all these like more recent movies and you can make it, and it's a very similar plot line, but something's not like this grand epic thing that everybody remembers unless some weird stuff happens. But that doesn't mean that they're not successful, right? And that they're not part of your regular library when showing videos to your kids in the future. And that's definitely going to be this. Like, this is going to be a movie that's going to be good, great for the family, for kids, for everything going forward, period. And that's just going to be how it is, and that's great. That's fine. That's what we want.
It serves the role that basically.
It serves the role that it is, because not everybody wants a deep dive into the deep buried lore behind it, because again, it's a little too old for that. Those kinds of concepts are a little too old for the audience that is seeing it right now, which is majority families.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's totally fine. I was thoroughly entertained by it. Didn't have that deep lore, but that's because that's the kind of person that I am, and again, that's totally fine that it didn't have that. I think this is a movie that you can definitely take your kids to, definitely take your nieces, nephews, whatever. It's definitely a movie you can see on a date night, because if you're dating a gamer and they want to go see this, it's great. It's really cute. Mooney and I went quite late in the evening on the release day, and we literally saw, I think there was like 3 kids there, and the rest were all young couples. So it's clearly a great date movie. It's clearly like it just hits all the nails. And then as far as like the pacing, the movie, the quality, all that kind of stuff, it's a very short, simple storyline.
Wait,
like
what? Sorry, was that a pun? Hits all the nails?
Yeah, or smashes all the bricks. It smashes all the bricks that you want it to smash, and that's why it's doing so well, because it's just a return to form retelling. We talked about this in hugely in depth in our review, but it goes through the hero's journey, which is a story format that's been around literally for like 10,000 years.
Yeah, and it's okay.
Yeah, and that's what you want, because that is this deep core thing that humans have had for millennia, and it's part of the integration of telling the story of a human life in a synopsis. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's it's hugely important.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just so huge to have those important like story beat kind of things, because that's what that helps to bring humans together and to equalize kind of their lived experiences, because it's something that we can all connect with, and so that's why it's doing so well. Contrary to the critics,
Right. Well, yeah.
because I don't know if you've looked, but the critics hate this movie. They despise this movie. It has the almost exactly the same plot premise as like most of the other like kids movies out there, like Toy Story, Shrek, like just all these movies out there. It's like, it's the hero is comfortable in their surrounding, then they get the call to adventure, then they get lost, and then the teacher appears, they learn something, they go out, they fail, they go out, they try again, they succeed, and then they have this perilous moment where the teacher's lessons comes full circle and they learn to grow past themselves. It's a very formulaic system because it's a story tale that most everybody gets, they understand super easily. It crosses every single cultural boundary there is, because every single culture has the same hero mythos story archetype process than any other culture, which is super cool. But yeah, for some odd reason, all of the reviewers and all the movie people who again rated other movies and are drooling over the Barbie movie, which is about to come out, gave this a shockingly negative review, which again is so bizarre because it's the same kind of like central plot points as all these other movies coming out and as the Barbie movie coming out. So again, you gotta kind of scratch your chin and go, I wonder what's going on here. What's the game these people are playing? You always ask yourself that. What is the game being played by the people who are?
I honestly, dude, in regards to this, I don't know if there really is a game.
I don't know either.
Well, look, you're saying that they're trashing it, but if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, over half of the critic reviews that are there are giving it a positive review. I think what it just is that people that are giving it a negative review don't necessarily understand why Mario doesn't really need that sophisticated a story. It really does probably just, as you said, need a bare bones archetypal hero's journey type of story.
Whenever you're looking at, here's a little trick with Rotten Tomatoes. If you really want to get like the full sense of like the reviewers, when you're looking at that on that professional side, the professional movie reviewers, you always have to subtract 10% from that vote, because there are professional movie reviewers who never give a bad mark to a movie ever, period. Because they deal in like positive, it's positive news cycle, which means that they don't rely on when they're covering things like games or races or sporting events. They never cover anything in a negative light. So to get that number, you do have to subtract about 10%. On a given thing, and sometimes a little bit more for kids movies, because again, it's like in a kids movie, they just always rubber stamp it as this is good entertainment, unless there's something egregiously wrong with it. A lot of these sites will never ever give it a negative review. It's like when it's like in video games, there's a lot of gaming studios who don't ever rate anything below a 60%, and so you have to be a little careful.
Actually, excuse me, sorry, man.
Yeah, so you have to be a little careful in that. But just as a reminder, again, that the actual movie critics, the ones that I'm talking about, not these other fellows who just they're just reviewing a movie positively because that's their bread and butter. They just do positive reviews. In that case, that's who you're looking at. So you're looking at the bulk of the professional media that is giving this movie not just poor scores, but like abysmally poor scores, like below 30-40%. That's the thing that I'm talking about. Again, there's a selection of mainstream media reviewers. When they see a kids movie, they take a kid, and this is how you're supposed to review kids movies, by the way. You take a kid to the movie, then when the movie's done, you go, how did you think of the movie, little Timmy? And Timmy goes, I loved it. You're like, all right, I loved it. There you go. Was there anything egregiously wrong in it? No? Okay, rubber stamp. Have you ever seen Cars 2? No, I think it's Cars 3. Cars 3, most confusing movie premise I've ever seen. It's so bizarre. It's just nonstop action that doesn't really make sense. Oh my goodness, do my nephews love it. I don't really, I can barely understand what's going on, but they absolutely love it because it's cars and it's cool stuff. And that's how you should rate that movie.
Well, come on, man. Like, how often do kids actively hate what they're being watched? Like, I remember liking a whole bunch of crap when I was a kid. Like, you remember Kangaroo Jack?
That's the point of it, right? Yeah.
I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know. And then there's some things like we were just talking about this again, like all the old Nintendo TV shows. It's like I remember the old Nintendo TV shows for Zelda, and then I remember the Sonic one. And those TV shows are so terrible when you watch them now, but as a kid, I couldn't stop thinking about them. I thought they were the coolest thing ever. And again, that is kind of how you do rate kids' movies, because you're rating them to an adult level of saying, this is my adult sensibilities, and they believe that there should be 3 hours of heavy talking about drama and emotions, and where's my emotions? My emotions! Where's that? And it's like, that's obviously not how you want. But that's what they're doing to this movie when they don't do that to other movies as well. So I'm genuinely curious as to why, because not everybody who's doing that is of the same political leaning or like business association, other than the fact that they're all mainstream media. So that's a really good question. I'm super curious, and I'm serious. Like, what is the game that's being played here? Because I don't know. I tend to think that there probably isn't, and they just don't get why Mario might not necessarily need that deep of a story. But ultimately, Sybe, it doesn't matter. You know why? Yeah. Because this movie has made gangbusters at the box office, man. Yes, over the 5-day Easter weekend, guys. I'm looking at the article from Variety right now. Over the last 5 days, and we're recording this on Monday, Easter Monday, it has made $204.6 million domestically and almost $400 million globally. You know what that means, Sybe? Luigi's Mansion. We're getting more.
Right.
We're getting more. Yes. We are getting so much more. It's going to be great.
And you know what that means, critics? When Super Mario Brothers 2 comes out, then you'll probably get a deeper story. Okay? Then you'll be happy. I do hope what this means, though, is that because they see now, oh wow, these globally recognized IPs can help us rake in the money. Maybe we should do a movie about Zelda or Metroid. Or whatever the hell else they had. Animal Crossing? Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean...
There's a lot of movies out there that are deserving of a... video games that are deserving of a full, proper, deep storyline. And we just haven't really ever gotten them. But there's certainly... Metroid is probably a really good example. Mm-hmm. Especially if they do... I think the first Metroid movie that they do, I think they should parallel it with the original game release, in that you don't know who Metroid is,
Samus,
until the very end where it's revealed. Mm-hmm. And once it's revealed, then you can, and then you then you kind of have more stories to it. If they were going to do some kind of combination universe, which would be so cool, I would say have the same thing where Metroid appears in the first couple of games, but her face and her reveal that she's
Samus, dude, not Metroid.
Oh, right, Samus.
Sorry.
What? No, her code name is Metroid, though, isn't it?
What?
Isn't there? I'm probably wrong on this. Doesn't she have a code name that's not Samus?
No, it's just Samus.
What's
Samus Aran.
Called?
Zero Suit.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, no, I'm an idiot. Yep, yeah,
it's all right, man.
Totally wrong on that.
You know
what I'm thinking? What? I'm thinking of Master Chief's armor. That armor
Mjolnir?
starts with the M word. Yeah.
Mjolnir. Yeah.
Mjolnir armor. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I had the M stuck in my head.
It's okay.
For big armor bodysuit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, have Samus be in the first the first movie or the first teases and nobody knows who she is, and then it's not discovered until quite later on. Like, I think that's probably one of the coolest things that they could do, because again, it's like introducing that to kids is the same way I was introduced to it. I played through Metroid, got to the end, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been playing a girl this whole time.
Right. It would be a bit of a challenge narratively speaking, but you know what they could do with that, it could be sort of a limiter that sparks creativity. Like I have heard, you know, the guy who directed Kong Skull Island, he's a huge gamer and he's actually attached to direct the Metal Gear Solid movie, although he has been forever. And he actually apparently pitched a Legend of Zelda movie at some point, and he said that if he were to ever do it, he wouldn't have Link speak at all, and he would use that to sort of inform the way that he approaches the movie. So maybe they could do something like that with Metroid. I'd be hella interested to see how they approach it.
Yeah. So I mean, just overall, I think Mario is just a really good set for this, and apparently, I've been reading all kinds of stories. So apparently they had a completely different script that they were going to go with as the kind of like this Hollywoodized version of it. And Nintendo stepped in and said, okay, we read the script and it's trash. It's garbage. We want you to stop what you're doing and to rewrite it with this, what we saw as the main theme. So I'm super curious. I would love to at some point get that other script and see how terrible it was for Nintendo to actually step in and say, you know what? No, you guys are really screwing this up. You don't know what you're doing. This is a complete and total gong show. I'm not allowing you to screw with this. That is what I would be very curious in seeing. Yeah. Because I wonder if that has something to do with the negative Nancy's, and perhaps they're actually angry because maybe their buddies didn't get the the pat on the back that they were looking for, and then that made them angry, and they wanted to make sure that they punished Nintendo so that Nintendo said sorry and gave them all creative control in the future, so that the Hollywood type clique that runs the Hollywood groups, which is just a collection of writers and actors, and mostly actors and directors and producers who are all like, you got to scratch my back, then I'll let you do this movie, and if you don't, then you're out of the industry. And that's the kind of thing that's been around for probably a fair bit too long, I would think.
I generally agree with you. I think that the game, when it comes to video game movies, it would be better to have the game companies and the Hollywood writers and producers work in tandem, so that they can keep each other's negative impulses in check. I do think, though, if you were to give any more creative control to either one side, it wouldn't be good. Like, I don't think Nintendo's necessarily better at making movies, but if you both have them in the same room hashing things out, then you can continue to get quality material. And hopefully, if these movies continue to do well, the inevitable Avengers-style team-up will come in the form of Super Smash Brothers. Question is, guys, did you happen to see the Super Mario Brothers movie? Did you like it? Do you agree with the critics? Do you disagree with them? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let us know in the comment section below. Continue the conversation there. All right, speaking of video game movies side, I put out a tweet when I read this information. I got it via the Game Awards Twitter account. Apparently, the Minecraft movie has now been greenlit. We knew that there has been a Minecraft movie coming for years, just like scripts coming left and right, directors being attached to it, stars being attached to it, and then them all falling to the wayside. Steve Carell was attached to this at some point. The guy who directed Night at the Museum was attached to it at some point, but then they had to leave for whatever reason. But finally, we have a director and we have a star. Jason Momoa, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the guy...
Of course.
What?
I said, of course, because that makes total sense.
Yes. Honestly, it was so funny. I put out a tweet after I read this news, and I said, guys, when you read the title of this... Because I retweeted the Game Awards. When you read the title of this news story, did it did you feel like you were in a separate dimension for a second there? Because honestly, out of all the people you would expect to lead a Minecraft movie, do you really think you would expect to see Jason Momoa voicing Steve? Like, really? That's like, I don't know, getting Kathy Bates to play Samus Aran.
It's very weird.
Yes.
I will give you that. It is probably one of the weirdest, like, okay. Is he gonna be in the movie? Like, is it gonna be his gorgeous face, or is he
in
gonna
a
take
block
his shirt
version?
off?
Right.
Like, what is he gonna be in block version? I don't think anybody's ready for that. Is it gonna be one of those weird takes where it's Minecraft, but it's like live action Minecraft that doesn't really make sense?
Yeah.
Like, is it going to be like, is it? I'm going to laugh hilariously if we show up to watch this movie, and it's like it plays basically like The Revenant.
The Revenant?
Revenant, yeah,
Yeah.
It's basically Revenant, and it's like. But he's
So
like
dramatic.
a miner from the 1800s, and he's dealing with like zombies and exploding zombies, and he's like running through mine shaft, going, Claire, save yourself from the zombies. And you're like, what is going on? What does this have to do with Minecraft?
Yeah.
And it's like,
more importantly, why are you playing him and not Kratos, Mr. Momoa? Even though
exactly. And you're just sitting there going, did these people, did the people understand who this was? Like it's not just about mine. It's not mines. It's like, because again, you've seen that in other movies and other things where it's like, oh yes, this movie is about X, when, they just took it seriously and they didn't read past anything other than like the initial like line. But it's like, it's such a well-known thing that I couldn't imagine them doing it. So is it just his voice that they got?
I'm assuming.
Does Jason Momoa have a secret Minecraft server that he just plays like in between every shoot and take? And it's like, hey, tell the directors I'm getting blazed back in my Winnie. And then he goes in and he's like, yes, I'm most certainly doing drugs. And then he boots up his computer and he's sitting there mining gold, and he's like building this giant like dick statue with lava coming out of it. And he's like, yes, this is my true joy. I don't get it. I don't.
If anybody were to do something like that in Hollywood, it probably would be Jason Momoa. He just seems like the type of guy. But look, I don't honestly, Syb, I don't really expect much to come of this movie. Like, the guy they got directing this, the only thing that he has done that I would consider to be good was Napoleon Dynamite. And that was kind of like a one-hit wonder movie.
You mean that movie from back in the 90s?
Early 2000s. Yeah, with John Heder.
2000s?
Yeah, and Hilary Duff's sister.
So long ago.
Yeah, the only other thing that he did beyond that's of note was Nacho Libre with Jack Black. And it's like, that movie was crap. And he's going to be directing the Minecraft movie? Like, okay. Who knows? Like, we live in a world where the Lego movie exists, and that movie was awesome. So maybe they can recreate that magic in Minecraft, but like, how? The question is, like, how are they going to approach it? Is it going to be like, are they going to take the lore of Minecraft seriously? Like, they're going to pursue the Ender Dragon and then the movie ends, or is it, I don't know, going to be kind of meta where stuff takes place in the real world and then Jason Momoa actually does get sucked in there somehow and becomes a blockhead? I don't know. But I guess we'll find out in a couple of years, because this movie's coming out in April 2025. But yeah, even as somebody who, like, Minecraft is in my top 10 favorite games, I don't really know what to make of this. I'm not that excited, but it's interesting.
It's definitely weird.
Yeah.
We live in a weird time. We got some multi-dimensional stuff going on. If I had pitched you any of the theories of like any of like recent history in like early 2000s, said, oh yeah, this is going to happen in 10 years, this is going to be a thing, everybody would like, you'd be locked up in an insane asylum. You would, you'd have people going, yeah, no, this person's suffering from like serious mental problems to think any of this is going to happen.
That happens. Yeah.
Weirdest timeline.
Why guys, come on. If we can get a Minecraft movie, if we can get a sequel to the original Silent Hill movie, surely we can find some way to make a Metal Gear Solid movie. For the love of God, just please, Mr. Roberts, make it happen. All right. Moving on to the next story. Syb, I got to make a confession to you. I went to the movie theater this weekend, and I didn't choose to see Mario. I chose to see Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. And holy crap, that movie's good. Yeah. That movie, I put it on Twitter. That movie sort of reminds me of the quality and the heart and the humor of the best Marvel movies, like the ones that came out circa 2012 to 2017.
Yeah.
It's really that good. And I want to see, just based on this movie, I want to see more stuff happening in this universe with these characters. I want to see them go to Baldur's Gate. I want to see them go into Planescape and see if they... Well, I was going to spoil it. Never mind. I won't say anything. I'll just say I want them to go to Planescape. It was really wonderful. However, the Wizards of the Coast, the people that are somewhat in charge of the whole Dungeons and Dragons brand, they have been doing some weird stuff lately alongside, the massive success of this movie, at least from a quality perspective. And when you sent me this, Syb, I didn't know...
You didn't know what to believe at first, right? You were like, this can't be serious, right?
Yeah, why don't you tell people about it?
I will try to be calm.
Okay.
I will try to be calm. This is one of the most aggravating, frustrating, anger, pure rage-inducing things that I have ever had to deal with in general. And that is the term or the words that, and I'm quoting here because I don't want to be misquoted as saying that this is something that I like. This is something that has angered me a great deal, and probably the most hurtful thing that ever happened to me was somebody basically saying something very similar to this. And I'm quoting from, not quoting, I'm slightly paraphrasing from Wizards of the Coast. Race mixing is bad. That's what they said. End quote. That's what they said. Not the, that's what they said, end quote. It's end quote, then that's what they said. And I know that some people are like, calm down, that they don't mean it that way. No, they do. Like, it's clear that they do.
Yeah, they just said it from what I was able to glean online. Like, they just said it, but they didn't expand upon it. It's like, really? Okay, go ahead.
So according to Wizards of the Coast, race mixing is not really something that they view favorably. It's very racist and problematic, they said, to have mixed races.
In Dungeons and Dragons.
They've said there's been apologists for them saying, oh no, what they mean is that the mechanics of it and that what they don't like is when you're forced to call yourself a half elf when you're an elf of like different like genetic backgrounds. It's like, okay, that's a different conversation that started with a different sentence other than, hey, race mixing is bad. Because only a crazy person says, oh, hey, race mixing is bad. That's something that I've heard numerous times in my life coming from some of the most racist, disgusting people who literally before is very similar to the people that from both like location and time and whatnot, from people who work near Wizards of the Coast. That's where I last heard it, was actually from somebody who was one of their neighbors in the same like neighborhood, not actual neighbor. And
right.
I've talked about this on our main channel a couple times. It's like I had mixed race kids and they died, and It was very traumatic to me. And I had some disgusting racist individuals look at me square in the face and say, yeah, but that's probably the best thing that could have happened to them, isn't it? And I'm using a British accent, not because it was a British person, but because I want to convey the amount of disingenuous arrogance that I could possibly do. And the British accent's the only really good way of doing that. That's what it came across to me as, and that's what it was like. And it was probably it was the most insulting thing I have ever heard in my life, period. And it was done to me by somebody who now champions the whole, I'm better than you because I am just far superior in my morality. I'm not going to go into any more, specifics, but that's the type of person. So I hate disingenuous, look at me, I'm better than you, hypocritical pieces of garbage. I'm so angry at those people that I seriously have a hard time keeping my mental focus whilst listening to them talk, because it's literally rage inducing to me. And it's disgusting to have to deal with that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't want to put that kind of stuff on anybody. And then here you have Wizards of the Coast come out starting their argument about how they don't like the current way that half races are done by saying, yeah, we think we don't like it, and we're just going to remove all of the labels of somebody being a mixed race person. Now, being partially mixed race myself, and then having, mixed race kids, and that I've never met somebody who doesn't happily stand by their history and go, yeah, I'm half this, I'm half that. I've never met somebody who's like, I hate that I'm half this. I've never heard that before. I'm sure it's out there in some crazy circles, but I've never heard that. Everybody in the game that I've ever talked to who's ever played a half elf, who mains a half elf or mains a half something, and it's part of the story and they've created lore for it and whatever, it's that's an important part of their character identification. And it usually has some meaningful identifiers to themselves, unless you play strictly for the role play and you come up with ooh, I'm going to play a dwarven bard because I think it's, that's, unless you're doing that and then your next character is something completely different and something completely different. It's people who play the same archetypes, and I have always played the same archetype, and it's always been a half elf. That's just my go-to, period. It's something that's very important to me, and it's something that's very important to other people, and that is something that Wizards of the Coast has decided, you know what, not only do we not like it, they called it racist, which means that it's morally reprehensible to them. It's morally reprehensible to identify yourself as something that comes from two different things. It's just, all I can think about is that Cartman, from South Park, in that episode where he puts Token and his girlfriend together, where it's he's all happy because
he's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, so very uncomfortable, where he's just he's everything in its proper place, and it's just that undertone of extreme racism. And again, not the
not the show itself. Yeah,
not the show itself. The show is meant to show that off so that you can identify. And I seriously wonder, wow, how is our ability as a population to actually identify real racists? It's kind of scary that this is an actual problem that is growing, because apparently nobody can see, and apparently nobody at Wizards of the Coast, that's what I meant. Apparently nobody at Wizards of the Coast said, hey, you do realize that what you're saying here is extremely racist to people who, view themselves as a half this and a half that. That's probably not going to go over very well for them, because they actively use that identifier a lot and proudly proclaim it. Why would we want to target them? And if we're talking about a mechanical issue within the game's rule set, why would we use that as hey, we're just going to start off with the presupposition that everybody who likes being a half race is inherently evil somehow because something.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to try and be calm, but
you're doing a good job.
It's I was screaming at my screen this morning, and this was like several days since I've read this. This has been several days of me like trying to like calm down from this. I made one Twitter post and then I took a break from Twitter for like, I think like almost a week now.
Sure.
Because it was like 5 days. It's like, I was just like, I cannot deal with this. I cannot, the level of arrogance and selfishness and this fake pseudo look at me, I'm so pure BS when they are clearly harboring extremely racist tendencies to just look at somebody and say, we really don't like your kind around here. It's like, and again,
fine, we don't like your game. We're not going to buy it.
I've been to Alabama. I've been to the East Coast. I've been to the West Coast in the United States. I've been all over. I've traveled a fair bit. I have never met more racism than when I'm in the center of like Los Angeles, California.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like the amount of, and it's not the same, we don't like your kind around here, we don't agree with your skin tone. It's not that, because I very rarely have ever met that. I've met people who are like that, but I've met far more people who are like, oh, look at you. Oh, you're a different race than I am. I'm going to take care of you because I'm just, I'm so much better than you are. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that you get somewhere because I'm that good of a person that I would sacrifice my time and energy to make sure that you are uplifted. And I'm going to uplift you, and I'm going to be on stage uplifting you, and everybody's going to see that I'm the one doing it.
Yeah. It's like it's like if you have a sister, right? And they bring over a boyfriend who just so happens to be black, and then you're sitting down to dinner and having a good time, and then I don't know, your mom or your dad, or I don't know, maybe your racist uncle just speaks up and he's like, isn't it great that people of all different races can sit down and eat dinner together? Isn't it just nice? It's like, it's so uncomfortable. I don't get why people do that. It's not an issue. Why are they making it an issue? Like, I can understand maybe if you wanted to get rid of the designation because having a half character would make you too overpowered. Something like that. But that doesn't mean you necessarily have to get rid of the people who are mixed race altogether. You can build around that. But no, they say it's inherently racist, and then what? We haven't heard from them for the last few days. Yeah. They haven't explained.
Yeah, and then they said that a lot of people got really upset. And they were just decided, you know what, we're just not going to talk about this. Just like the whole like OGL thing.
I don't know. It's like, why that wasn't a big enough problem for them? Like the whole OGL thing. Yeah, it's just like, you know what, we kind of missed, the enormous headache that we got from that. Let's introduce something that will give us an equally, if not greater, headache. And even though it's just only been a few days, trust this is going to be something that is constantly thrown back at them until they address it.
Yeah. So pretty disgusting. Just in general, it's this fake pseudo. I'm better than you because I have a higher mindset, or I have some kind of like this higher level of understanding in this, and therefore, and you don't get it, and because you don't get it, despite the fact that you're actually, you've actually been an actual victim of this, these people have never been a victim of racism. Have you seen their board at the Wizards of the Coast? They're all one color, and it's not anything other than white. So, yeah, it's again, it's like, it's just, they're sitting there going, you don't understand because you're not cultured like I am. It's like the biggest, like, WTF are you talking about? Yeah. How dare you, sir? It's that just the deep sense of like, I am enraged by this to the point where it's hard for me to talk about it. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And again, I get some people are like, okay, it's not that serious. It's like, well, then they're guilty of the same problem that they constantly throw at other people.
Yeah.
The whole, because they've, again, this is somebody on in their leadership team who was white, who said, I can't wait for all the white people to leave this fandom because I just don't like dealing with them. It's like, okay,
Ooh.
you clearly have a problem, and now you're like, race mixing's bad because, it's just not good. And then for, the main characters in the movie, the main character is, it's a biracial relationship, and the kid is mixed, and so it's like, are you going to address that? Are you going to talk about how bad that is, or is it only between like elves and humans? Maybe you don't have a problem with, but clearly you do, because you're sponsoring other like social groups that are insisting that people be segregated and stay segregated and go after balkanization and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, that's not really messed up in any way, shape, or form. I say extremely exaggeratedly. Like, again, how racist can you be without actually being caught wearing the hood?
Right.
It's mental.
But people that live in those types of,
like I said,
yeah,
the most racist people I have ever met are those high political elite people who live in places like Los Angeles. I know it's not all of you, obviously. It's this like super loud minority of people who are like, I know what's best for everybody because I'm cultured and other people aren't. And I know what's best for all of the poor people that, they're just not as smart as I am. So therefore, and studies have shown it. It's like if you're in that circle where you're like telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't do, the chances that you talk down to other races that are not that are typically like black and Hispanic, that you will naturally like dumb down your language when you're talking to them. Who's the real racist at that point?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. If you're dumbing down your language using less advanced wording because you're afraid that the person's not going to understand you, I think the racist person is if you go into the kitchen sink, the kitchen sink. If you go into the bathroom and you look above the sink, you're probably going to find the racist person.
Yeah.
That boogeyman that you've been warning us all about, probably right there.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's currently how this company decides to handle their stuff right now. Trust me, we're going to keep you abreast as to what's going on with this, because this type of behavior, I can't tolerate it either side. I don't get offended by a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people that treat other people differently due to factors that are out of their control, that is the killer for me. It gets to my core as well.
I will say that the Larian, who's making Baldur's Gate 3, has said that they're not intending to they have no intention of following.
Yeah.
With this thing, they're not going to be removing half elves from their game.
Yeah, it'd be too late anyways. But yeah, good on them for saying that. By the way, dude, I will say the Dungeons and Dragons movie was so good that it's made me even more excited to play Baldur's Gate 3. I will play that when it comes out in August. At least the people behind that are level-headed. Okay, let's move on to... we're going to have to make this the last story because unfortunately I have to go a little bit earlier. But yeah, what's up with Pathfinder?
Well, Pathfinder is is basically a major competitor to Wizards of the Coast and D&D. It is basically the same thing. They took what was originally created and meant to be created for free for everybody, and they basically just ported everything over there. They've been doing their own stuff, and they've been doing exceedingly well in recent times, ever since the OGL debacle. Now even more with this. I was perusing some places where this just really kind of took off. Again, this is indicative of how to run a company. When a company is shooting itself in its foot constantly and insulting their fan base and yelling at them because they're racist, maybe just not do that. Maybe be kind and forgiving. And yeah, that's the thing that's going on there. So yeah, they also announced 2 new video games. So if you are feeling depressed about the whole Baldur's Gate / Wizards of the Coast thing and all the frustration and not knowing whether this is something that you should be supporting in the future, I think Larian's doing their own thing. They have their own rules. They have their own stuff. Hopefully that will continue that way. But don't worry, because the tabletop experience of the party party group going in, delving into dungeons and doing stuff in the D&D fashion is alive and strong with Pathfinder and with a lot of other programs. There's a lot of homebrews that you can just make and use and create on your own. And more stuff is now moving as far as official game production, and AAA game studios are now moving towards Pathfinder stuff. So we will have that universe to play with as we will, without having to have this Wizards of the Coast thing attached to it. Pathfinder is a completely different company. They pay nothing in royalties to Wizards of the Coast, and they are distancing themselves every day. Every time these disastrous things happen, we don't have any super concrete info on what types of games they're working on. We just know that they signed for 2 large new AAA games that will. One is already on production, and the other one started under major production just, I believe, within the last week or so, or the announcement that it will be starting up in about a week or so. So yeah, that's the thing, and that makes me happy, because it's well, good, because Wizard of the Coast clearly can't handle the position that they're in. Let's get Pathfinder in there, and let's have Pathfinder be the primary D&D source of D&D gameplay, even though D&D is the copyrighted thing from Wizards of the Coast, but the D&D tabletop experience is more of a broad term, but it's the same word. So yeah, so that's the thing. If you're a little confused, they're basically the same game. Pathfinder is a little bit closer to 3.5 rules, which I did like a lot more. It's meant to have just way more options. There's just way more flexibility there. And then yes, I am still working on my own version. It is going to be a little bit here. We got a book contract and some other stuff in the potential wings here.
Hey.
So we're getting stuff. We're focusing on getting stuff. Yeah, I'll tell you about that later.
Cool.
But yeah, we've got some stuff rolling here. Hopefully it all pulls through. If it pulls through, very exciting. Is seriously exciting what we're going to potentially be doing here in the future. But yes, I do have my world that I'm writing my novel in, and I've always had the rules in my head for how the world operates, and it's not that hard to put that down on paper. I'm just I'm doing a little bit of polish as far as the general quality of life stuff, and sorting out the combat skills, and just making sure that it's balanced really, really well. But yeah, that's something that I'm working on. Hundreds of other people are working on it. I'm friends with and working with other content creators. We're in a live open source tabletop community. There's a whole bunch of platforms there being developed. And so yeah, the future is really good for this thing. Don't let Wizards of the Coast and D&D drag you down. There are way more things coming and being polished, and it's not just people's homebrews. It's big games, and they're coming, and I think we can be happy with that, because it'll give some competition, and hopefully at this point maybe just shut down Wizards of the Coast. Or what I think would be the best thing is if Larian Larian has this humongous success, and they just buy the rights to D&D, and then they fire everybody, and then they just reboot it up in their country. I think that would be probably the best possible.
Yeah, that's capitalism, baby. This is the side of it that
This is the positive side of it, because if this was like a government sponsored thing, we never get rid of it. It's there for life. We're just stuck with this company that treats you like garbage, and who doesn't value the original source of information. And they, again, it's this thing where they look at these Wizards of the Coast people. some of these people, not all, but some of these people, they look at orcs and they're like, oh, that's what I think a certain racial group looks like. It's like, how do you get that?
Yeah.
How is that even in your head to any level where you're like, hey, you know what? I think such and such a racial group looks like this horrible monstrous beast from this world that I write for. It's like, or not. I don't see that. I don't know anybody who does, other than people who are paid to be enraged by things constantly.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. That thought would have never entered my head if it weren't for the internet and the people, some of the people that occupy it. Yeah. Pathfinder, I don't know, might need to.
It's looking really good. Yeah. They do have one game out. Graphically, it's not great, but it is really, really broad, and it's got some really good stuff in it. It's got an amazing soundtrack to it. But yeah. And then other than that, we've got we've got just a boatload of other games coming out soon.
Yeah.
We have we want to cover this really quickly. We're still good on time, right?
Just very quickly. The only because there hasn't been that much news, we were gonna just mention very quickly the games that are coming out in the next month or two. For April, it's just Dead Island 2 and Jedi. Not Fallen Order, but Jedi Survivor. I'm interested in both of them just because that gameplay trailer for Dead Island 2 actually looked much better than I was expecting, and because Jedi Fallen Order was so damn good. And then
finally have Dead Island 2 coming out this month.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's actually going to be good, I have no idea, because I've not seen anything really solid on it for quite a while. I've seen the same, we saw the one playthrough, and it looks really good, but again, always when it comes to first person, you actually need to be the person playing it, because the way that they film that stuff, right, it's not the same as when you're playing it, right? Because nobody does those long, smooth, motion stuff like that. So we're not typically, we don't get the real experience of a first person shooter until people actually get it in their hands. We've got Star Wars Jedi Survivor coming out the 28th of April. We have a couple of really good games coming out in May. A bunch of these we're going to be streaming. Obviously, I think Ash is going to be streaming Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
He really liked that game. He did a huge coverage on that game, on the predecessor of that game before. I'm going to be streaming a ton of Age of Wonders 4. We've got Redfall coming out. Those are both coming out on the 2nd of May. We've got Endless Dungeon coming out. That looked really interesting. There was a lot of us kind of had our eyebrow up for that. We've got Lego 2K Drive. That looks sort of interesting. Got Lord of the Rings Gollum coming in May 25th.
Finally.
Suicide Squad. Again, the big question on whether this is going to be good or not. Coming out the 26th. Then we've got System Shock coming out the 30th. That's is that the remake or the
remake? Yeah,
that's the remake.
Of course, Avalon is attached to that sucker.
Yeah, and then we've got Street Fighter 6 coming on the 2nd of June, followed by the Diablo 4 officially launching on June 6th. So that's your kind of your brief look at the next little bit of gaming before the big summer news stuff hits. And then we'll have a ton of releases coming out after that, I would imagine. And then, you know what other game is popping off right now?
What's that?
To ridiculous degrees. You're gonna be surprised by this one. Vanilla World of Warcraft.
Why now?
Just exploded.
Why?
So what it is, as far as I can tell, as far as what I've been able to understand, I was looking at some numbers and I was so confused as to why now? What is going on here? And it's because of this revamped desire to delve into a hardcore version of vanilla, in which when you die, you delete your character and restart.
I guess
you get no access to the. You do not interact with the auction house. You can only equip what you get and what you find and what you make.
I mean, I would imagine that it'd only be for the most hardcore of the hardcore veterans. It's something that
You'd
people
think,
yeah.
But but the numbers are exploding. It's ridiculous. They're just the views alone on Twitch are pretty good, but the game rates, people were looking at it, and it looks like the population surged almost like it was several thousand percentage points in the last like week.
Right, but are those the people that are actually playing it, or they're watching other people do it?
No, those are the people watching it. The numbers playing it. That was very confusing. Those are the number of people playing it.
Huh.
The number of people watching it has been going up on Twitch, but not nearly as much as the number of people who are actually playing it. And there's all kinds of mods that that have come out for that. And one mod in particular that I want to talk about very briefly, just chat. Somebody used chat GDP in combination with a voice synthesizer, and basically had all of the vanilla quests, gave all of it animation for animation and dialogue for all of the quests.
Yeah, you can do that now, guys.
You can do that now. And this is horrifying it's sort of horrifying for voice actors, because they just voiced an entire game in a very short amount of time with a single AI program, and the voice work, really, really good. Like really, really good. Not only is it really, really good, but it's not a single voice. They've managed to replicate every voice for every NPC, because every NPC, when you click on them, they have, a generalized thing. Mm-hmm. And then they like change it up even a little bit more from that. But dwarves talk like dwarves with the accent, with the various idiosyncrasy idioms that they use in that dwarven like cultural language in Warcraft. Very fascinating stuff. So it's more interesting to me as far as because I'm done playing vanilla and I'll never play it again. I didn't play it before. Like I played it when it originally came out, and I have no desire to go back to it. But It's very cool that the AI chat systems, the AI systems in general, are progressing so fast. There should be no more excuse for not having some kind of dialogue in video games when you're creating these gigantic worlds. Every NPC should be able to have a voice.
Yeah.
So
as long as you're still having voice actors participate in some degree. I got to say, just very quickly, before we're done, I got to send you, in case you haven't seen it, somebody used that same technology to take Joshua Graham's voice and have him read the entire book of Genesis. And you wouldn't be able to tell whether or not it was AI or if it was the actual voice actor. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, Joshua Graham, in case you guys don't know, is from Fallout New Vegas. Anyways, guys, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you. We went longer than I was expecting. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any thoughts on any of the stuff that we talked about, we'd love to hear you in the comment section below. Continue the conversation. Make sure you give this video a like. When you do that, it tells the YouTube algorithm that not only this video, but all the other videos on this channel are worth watching and listening to. I want to thank Syb, as always, for his invaluable insight into all these topics. Syb, tell people about the main channel before we conclude for the night.
Yeah, check out the main channel. It's been growing quite quickly again. We're really happy with that.
Nice.
It's the Triple S League, and we've got, like I said, we've got a bunch of games that are being prepped up for this coming cycle. And then, of course, we're going to be hitting Starfield, Baldur's Gate pretty hard.
So close.
And we've got so many plans for them. We're really hoping that everything just really is good. So
I'm going to play the crap out of Baldur's Gate 3 with you, man. I'm really quickly fast becoming a fan of those types of games. I'm almost done Disco Elysium. And you guys can find me just at all the regular forms of social media, just at Max Derrat. I will put links to that and the stuff that Syb mentioned in the description box below. Thanks, guys. Until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always, and as per usual, stay yellow.